We have our second test coming up in Math 111. I want to talk you through some of the ideas that will be on this test. First, know all the vocabulary words and what they mean. I will not ask you to define anything specifically on the test. You need a working knowledge of all of the vocabulary words. The second item here, name the three types of numbers. We're talking about cardinal numbers, ordinal numbers, and nominal numbers. Know the difference, be able to identify these sorts of things. Also, write the digits from 0 to 9 in their standard form properly. Some of you do not form your digits clearly. For instance, 4 and 9 look very much alike. 5 looks like an S. 6 and 0 look very much alike. You need to practice forming these correctly. As a teacher, you will need to do that. The third item here, draw a number line. Okay, so be able to draw your number line correctly. Negative numbers go on the left, positive numbers on the right. Know the inequality symbols, which is which. Know the difference between less than and greater than. The next item is a big one. Be able to do set arithmetic. We had a lesson involving sets, set notation, union, intersection, complements, and so forth. Make sure that you understand all of these things and can do them. Also here, do a Venn diagram problem. We have looked at that also. Remember, with the Venn diagram, every region of the diagram has a special meaning. So make sure you practice that. Be able to recognize the addition models. Know the names of the models and know what distinguishes them. Right? Moving along. Know the properties of addition. We're talking about things like the commutative property, the associative property, the additive identity property of 0. Be able to recognize these properties or give examples of them. The next item, be able to recognize the 5 subtraction models by name. Again, know the distinction of these. If you were asked to write a word problem for a specific model, be sure you can do that. Or if a word problem is given to you, can you identify the correct model? Make sure you learn those. The next item, what do you build with base 10 blocks when you add or when you subtract? When adding, you build both add-ins. When subtracting, you build only the minuend. This is very important. Make sure you know that. Make sure you practice these things. Make sure you know how to draw the diagrams for addition and subtraction with the base 10 blocks. The next item deals with the models for multiplication. Know the names of them. Know what distinguishes them. The last item on this page, know the models for division. Same thing here. Make sure you know the names, know what distinguishes one from the other. If you were to read a word problem, could you put the right model with it? The next item here, give examples of fact families. You've done this in your homework. The next item is with fraction bars. I prefer that your fraction bar be horizontal, not diagonal. The fraction bar actually represents division. All right, look at these division statements here. A divided by A, you know what that is? A divided by 1? What about A divided by 0 and 0 divided by A? Make sure you understand these and know what the differences are. Are these defined? Make sure you know that. The next item deals with remainders. When we divide, sometimes we have a remainder. What do we do with the remainder? Well, right now, you'll just list it as a remainder. The next item deals with the laws of exponents. Make sure you know the laws of exponents. When you multiply like bases, you add the exponents. When you divide like bases, you subtract the exponents. When you raise a power to another power, you multiply the exponents. When a base is raised to the 0 power, then that is equivalent to 1. Again, these are very important, so make sure you know those. Next item, simple base translations. This is like the alien mathematics. So a problem might be presented to you dealing with an alien, and you might be asked to determine the number of fingers that the alien has, or you might be determining what number the alien might write down. Or again, you might know how many fingers the alien has and what the alien wrote down, but then how does that translate into what we would count? Make sure you understand that. Make sure you can do that. The next item here, add and or subtract in different bases. You have a worksheet to do with that. When you are asked to add or subtract in different bases, make sure you can draw the models. And remember, when adding, you draw both add-ins. When you subtract, you draw only the minuend. Make sure you know how to trade up and trade down, and do that in the diagram. The next item has to do with the numeration systems that we looked at one day. We had Babylonian, we had Egyptian, we had Roman numerals, we had the Mayan. So if you were given the symbols for one of those ancient numeration systems, could you write a number in that system? Or could you translate that number into our number system of today? The next item has to do with multiplication and showing a diagram using base 10 block notation. Make sure you can do that. The next item, know the names of the parts of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division problems. In addition, you have add-ins and a sum. In subtraction, you have minuend, minus, subtrahend, equals the difference. In multiplication, you multiply factors together and you get a product. In division, you have your dividend divided by the divisor equals the quotient. Yes, and make sure you can spell these. The next item has to do with estimation. Make sure you can estimate using the techniques that were discussed in the video. This is a pretty comprehensive list of the topics that are included. All of these have been either in lectures, in the homework, or both. You should be able to do all of these things. Make sure you prepare well for this next test. Good luck.